Delaware Defensive Driving Course, Chapter 10. Plain Talk.
Yes, there will be test questions for this chapter. 10 true or false sample test questions follow. The correct answer to these 10 questions will be found in the current chapter material. It is suggested pausing the audio to read these sample test questions. Continue the audio after completing your review.
Plain Talk, DUI Law. The following is plain talk relating to Delaware's DUI law. There are 2 sections of Delaware Code that relate to Delaware's DUI law. Title 21, Chapter 4177 is the primary identification of exactly what is DUI, alcohol and drugs, in the state of Delaware. Title 16, Chapter 4701 provides the definition of a drug. Section 4177. Driving a vehicle while under the influence or with a prohibited alcohol or drug content, evidence, arrests, and penalties. A. No person shall drive a vehicle. 1. When the person is under the influence of alcohol. Too much alcohol, picture 10-2 below, and your BAC will reach 0.08 or more. Once your BAC reaches a minimum of 0.08, the judge will say, guilty, no other proof needed. Section 4177. Driving a vehicle while under the influence or with a prohibited alcohol or drug content, evidence, arrests, and penalties. A. No person shall drive a vehicle. 2. When the person is under the influence of any drug. First, the definition of a drug according to Delaware law, Title 16, Chapter 4701. Substances other than food intended to affect the structure or any function of the body. There can be no question illegal drugs fall into the above definition of a drug. Additionally, Delaware law identifies any amount of illegal drugs prior to or during driving as a DUI. Prescription drugs can also fall into the above definition, Title 16, Chapter 4701, of a drug, but will not result in a DUI if used according to Title 21, Chapter 4177. Title 21, Chapter 4177 states, no person shall be guilty when the person has used or consumed the drug or drugs detected according to the directions and terms of a lawfully obtained prescription for such drug or drugs. However, a DUI can occur if prescription drugs, see picture 10-3 below, are not used according to the directions and terms of a lawfully obtained prescription, even when alcohol is not involved. Title 21, Chapter 4177 also states, under the influence of a combination of alcohol and any drug. Since there is zero tolerance for the use of illegal drugs, then the amount of alcohol is not relevant in determining a DUI. The same is true for the use of prescription drugs when they are not used according to directions. The amount of alcohol may not even be a consideration. The dilemma. Over-the-counter drugs, OTC, can be abused. OTC, picture 10-4 below, can fit into the definition of a drug as identified in Title 16, Chapter 4701. Use them according to directions and the potential for a DUI will not exist. Maybe. See below. Combine either OTC or prescription drugs with alcohol and the odds of a DUI will increase. Since Delaware law is silent as to what the exact combination of either OTC or prescription drugs and alcohol consumption will result in a DUI, the D-Team's suggestion is not to drive when combining alcohol and OTC or prescription drugs. Plain talk. Motorcycles. 1. If less than 19 years of age, a safety helmet is required for the operator and/or passenger of a motorcycle. 2. Both the operator and passenger of a motorcycle must wear safety eye protection regardless of age. 3. Stunt riding is one of the leading causes of motorcycle accidents. You may have been cool riding your bicycle no-handed, but you would be a fool to do the same when operating a motorcycle. Besides, it is a violation of Delaware law. 4. The following is not Delaware law, but it is smart defense. Motorcyclists should never pass between vehicles or ride side by side with another motorcyclist in the same lane. Plain talk. Seatbelts. Seatbelt myth, Part 1. The odds should be better. At the time the numbers were placed on the sign in picture 10-6 above, it showed that 63% of vehicle occupants, 50, who were traffic fatalities, did not buckle up, while 37% of the fatalities, 29, used the vehicle occupant protection system. Granted, the odds favored buckling up by approximately 2 to 1, but one could argue the odds should be much higher in favor of a better outcome with seatbelt usage. Guess what? They are. The above statistical sign does not take into account the number of vehicle occupants who did go home again following the collision because they were wearing a seatbelt. The numbers on the sign above only takes into account fatalities. It does not address the fact of who lived because they were buckled up. When that number is taken into account, the odds in favor of buckling up would probably rise to the upper 90 percentile. Seatbelt myth, Part 2. Thrown clear versus room to live. Thrown clear, a term sometimes used to support a position of not buckling up. It may sound good, but in reality those who are thrown clear when the vehicle in which they are driving comes to a sudden stop and/or a change in direction, roll over or flip over, face substantially poorer odds of escaping serious injuries or worse. Actually, being thrown safely clear in a crash is almost impossible. Being thrown through the windshield into a pole or tree or crushed by your own vehicle or another vehicle is definitely the more likely outcome. Important. Another term for thrown clear is an ejection. However, the non-seatbelt use advocates generally stay away from the term ejection because it brings with it an image of a violent happening. Guess what? It is. Room to live. Over the years, there have been countless studies, photos, stories about individuals who perished in motor vehicle collisions because they did not remain in the safest location inside their vehicle, buckled up in the vehicle seat. It would have provided them the best opportunity to survive. Not only would buckling up have prevented an external ejection, but it would also have lessened the odds of an internal ejection injury or fatality. Internal ejection collision is when a human body suddenly and violently merges with another human body and/or a human body suddenly and violently merges with a part of the interior of the vehicle. Picture 10-7 below. There can be no dispute. The best odds of surviving a vehicle collision is to buckle up in your seat because that will provide you the best odds for the room to live if the unthinkable or unimaginable happens. Important. Just because it has never happened to you in the past does not mean it will never happen in the future. So unless you have the ability to tell the future, you cannot predict if it will happen to you. Why? Because the only guarantee that can be given is it will never happen until it happens. The very famous person in picture 10-8 below clearly did not understand the power of the force. Do you? If it could happen to a princess, it could happen to you. The room to live is your best odds. Buckle up every trip, every time.
Important reminder. The operator of a motor vehicle is responsible to make sure all occupants are buckled up. True. The driver gets the ticket, but the unbuckled vehicle occupant may end up paying the penalty charged by the power of the force. And the winner is? In picture number 10-10 below, we see what most would agree is an imposing figure. Yes, this police officer is someone most of us would welcome when confronted with impending danger. However, just maybe we would not be happy to see him if we engaged in a violation of man's traffic law, Delaware Code Title 21. Fortunately, The penalty imposed by man's traffic law is not nearly as severe as the one delivered by the force. See picture number 10-11 below. Significant difference. Picture number 10-12 below is a synopsis of the major differences between man's law, Title 21, and nature's law, the force. The difference. Man's law, police. Emotion. 1. Not every spot. 2. Plea bargain available. Nature's law, the force. No emotion. 1. Every spot. 2. No plea bargain, penalty, absolute. 1. A police officer's decision, man's law, is always going to include emotion regardless of the police officer's effort to exclude it from his or her decision to issue a traffic violation ticket or not to issue the ticket. Factors such as age and/or gender often are taken into account. It is also indisputable fact that a police officer cannot be on every spot of every road every second of every day. Finally, when issued a summons, traffic violation, there are opportunities to eliminate the violation and/or reduce the penalty of the violation through the plea bargain procedures. 2. The force, nature's law, differs greatly. There is absolutely no emotion involved in the penalty delivered by the force. It is what it is. Additionally, the force will be waiting to strike on every spot, on every road we travel, every second of every day, and the option for a plea bargain is non-existent. Use smart defense to improve your odds to avoid violating man's law and nature's law. Below, in picture number 10-13, is a list of some very tough laws imposed by countries other than the United States for the purpose of eliminating the practice of driving under the influence, DUI. Obviously, the main purpose for such tough measures identified below is to decrease violation of man's law and, more importantly, the penalty declared by nature's law. Would such tough laws as identified in picture number 10-13 really work? Perhaps. Tough laws. Worldwide concerns with the problem of drunken driving has resulted in some unusual penalties in other countries. If you think our penalties are tough, consider what would happen if you lived in Australia. Names are listed in the newspaper under the heading Drunk and in Jail. Malaysia. Driver is imprisoned, along with his wife if married. Bulgaria. Execution on second conviction. El Salvador. Execution by firing squad. The first offense is the last. The odds are up to you. Are the above identified tough laws fact or fiction? Please feel free to visit these countries and determine for yourself. However, if you choose to personally test these tough laws, it is recommended you save El Salvador until the end.
SOS. You can drive smart or you can drive stupid.